Welcome to this introduction to the Stages assessment software and the Stages report wizard. Here is a picture that shows the steps that you take when you're implementing the Stages framework process. Let's take a look at each one of these steps. Begin with the Stages book. Here is where you will find over 10 years of research around child development superimposed by how assistive technology can play a role for learners with cognitive or language challenge in the learning process. In the book, there's research from many famous child development experts and language development experts that's merged to create a new theory of how assistive technology can play a role in the learning and skill acquisition for learners with cognitive and language delay. Each of the chapters contains elements that are the same. In each chapter you will see a checklist of observable characteristics for that stage. You will see goals, overall competency goals for that stage, as well as specific sample IEP objectives for an individualized educational plan. You will see a section that describes computer activities and off-computer activities, ways to extend that learning into the classroom environment. You will see communication ideas, ways that you should implement the use of both low-tech and high-tech augmentative communication devices, and you will also see recommendations for what to look for in selecting software for that stage of skill acquisition, as well as some recommended software programs. After we developed the book, once we knew what the milestones were, we created assessment software that's accessible by use of adaptive devices. This allows you to collect data across all 7 of the child development milestones that were outlined in the book. The software itself is designed for use with adaptive devices that will allow for each learner to generate their own evidence of what they have learned. We call the software a kit because it contains more than directions for using the software itself. There is a script for an evaluator or diagnostician to follow, just as you would see in any formal assessment. The language that the evaluator uses really does matter, so we have a script there for you to use when you're implementing each of the activities. There's also a unique observation form because even though we've designed the activities to capture performance data in the content areas, there's always something that the computer just can't see that might be mitigating evidence that you'd like to explain. So there is a unique observation form for each of the stages, and we'll talk about that more in a little while. There's also a guide for selecting practice software at that stage based on the data that you've captured, and the assessment kit also includes the Stages Report Wizard software. Once you've got the data, you can use that data many different ways, and never assume that this is an easy thing for learners who perhaps don't hold a pencil or speak. Capturing this data should never be underestimated. It's a wonderful opportunity to really know that you're seeing progress over time. How can you use the data? Well, many different ways. You can maintain a student portfolio. You can track that progress, especially for learners that show us small incremental changes over time. It's really good to know how you're doing. You can share that progress with parents. If you're using the data for alternate assessment, it is very important that you plan regular data capture because alternate assessment does depend on multiple data points over time. That's a journey that you plan for right at the beginning of the year. The observation form is there for us to write down the things that the computer just can't see. Was there a wonderful smile and an eye gaze to a similar target across the room? Was there a distraction in the room that would mitigate why there's particular performance data at the moment? Was there additional assistance needed? Perhaps did you do a hand-under-hand support for that learner? That needs to be indicated on the observation form so that we know the manner in which that primary evidence was collected. This would be called secondary evidence. In the process, what comes next would be for you to pick out some assessment software that works well for the learner um, to practice the skills that the data indicated that he needs to practice. There are two ways that you can find some recommended software that fit the Stages framework. Right within the Stages documentation, there is a little chart that shows you recommended features or recommended software with different features. That's the original print version. But Cambium Learning has also posted these recommendations online, and in a separate video you will see how to use these online the online recommendations for software based on your assessment data. The idea is that you would purposefully use software that you've already owned. You could keep up to date on new titles using the online tool that I've mentioned, and please look for a separate video on that. But the important thing is, with today's limited budgets in schools, that we know that we are implementing smart spending based on performance data, data-driven decision making in our spending. We know that when we recommend a particular piece of software for learner practice, that it's based on the data that we've captured. In the curriculum software area, there are three titles that you might want to consider that come from the same publisher as Stages. That's Cambium Learning, and they have three wonderful curriculum software tools that you might want to consider based on your Stages data. For children who are early stages, you might consider using the Classroom Suite, IntelliTools Classroom Suite version 4. For practice in the math area, there is one new title for Stages in the Stages series. This is the Stages Math Number Sense, which contains lots of different scaffolds that you can turn on and off based on the needs of your learner. And then there is the Kurzweil 3000 tool that helps with scanning and reading classroom print materials so that learners can use auditory feedback and many other support tools that are available in the Kurzweil software. These again are examples of curriculum software that you might pick based on the data that you've captured in your Stages assessment process. The idea is that you integrate that into your everyday curriculum practice so that you can see some learner change over time. Stages is your diagnostic tool, the others are your curriculum practice. The Stages Report Wizard was born because many teachers who had good Stages assessment data in a folder on their desktop didn't know how to then turn around and report that data back. So what the Stages Report Wizard allows you to do is locate your Stages data that's been saved and generate lots of graphs and mastery tables that show that learner's progress over time in a graphical manner. You're allowed in the Stages Report Wizard to customize different kinds of reports, and you can save all of these reports into a final report that can be printed or distributed as a PDF file. You can plot progress graphs. You can analyze the content of the work that the learner has been doing and comment on that. And you can also create custom summary reports that can be used for IEP meetings as well as alternate assessment reports. Stages Report Wizard helps you generate three kinds of graphs. How accurate was the learner, and it only looks at learner performance on the very first try. That's what an assessment is all about. The number of tries is also you can graph, and that one will allow you to know how the learner is doing working toward getting that right on the very first try. And you can also look at the learner's time on task. Is his time increasing or decreasing as he is struggling or accomplishing mastery in that skill area? And there are two kinds of reports that you can write using the Stages Report Wizard. An annotated report will allow you to make a comment on one sitting. Did something wonderful happen today? Was there something of concern in a particular activity? That one activity can be isolated and annotated in a single report. Or you can add together all of the stages data that you've collecting over time and create activity summary. So this is the stages alternate assessment or diagnostic process. Step by step, starting with the book, using the software that allows you to get primary evidence of the skills that are outlined in the book. Once you've got that data, using that data to help you select appropriate curriculum software, and anytime you might need to, you can pull out the Stages Report Wizard for making a report and letting folks know, people that are stakeholders in that learner, know how that learner is progressing over time. Please take a note. Please take a look at some of the other videos that are posted here in this series so that you can see how each stage works separately and the content that's addressed in each or measured in each of these stages. Here's how you reach Cambium and the product manager for Cambium Learning for the Stages software line.